Our next session is a short talk examining the response to the terrorist attacks on the Stade de France, and that will be followed by another opportunity for you guys to ask for some questions from the floor. So the attacks on the Stade de France have focused attention on the terrorist threat to sports grounds. So what does this mean for sports grounds? How must they adapt to ensure the safety of spectators? These questions and more will be covered by our next speaker. You'll see in your programmes that Helmut and Ben were due to be here. Sadly, they've been unable to join us today, but I am delighted to say that Alfredo Lorenzo from La Liga in Spain is here to join us to share his thoughts and answer some of your questions. So please do welcome Alfredo to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very pleased to be here representing La Liga and representing also ESMA. I want to thank the Sports Ground Safety Authority the invitation, and I have to start saying sorry for my English. I'm trying to do my best, and I'm trying to make myself understood regarding 2, 3, 4 ideas I want to share with all of you. As I've told you, I'm here with 2 hats, let's say. One is ESMA. ESMA is an European association that has an approach to sports as industry, which is a very modern approach. La Liga is one of the representatives in ESMA, and we are very happy being part of ESMA because one of the topics is security. So for us, this association is a good platform for sharing knowledge and sharing concerns about security in our football or in our sport. As La Liga representative, I'm the Integrity and Security Director. La Liga, you know, that is the organizer of the main competition in Spanish football. La Liga is focused on professional football, 2 categories of professional football in Spain. And well, we could be just the organizer and just focus on matches and that's all. No, we could. Our approach could be very narrow, only focus on the competition itself. But we want to do more things. That's why La Liga last year, in the beginning of last year, created a security department because it's not a legal obligation for us to have a security department, but we think that it's very important to coordinate security, let's say, at a national level, and to try to have the same security standard in all of our clubs. That's why we want to do something extra. We want to add our work to the obligations of the legislation. In particular, about myself, I've been police officer 20 years in the National Police, and my main task as police officer has been dealing with mass event security during mass events, and well, you know, football is the number 1, of course, not only in Spain, in Europe, in UK, wherever. And my last task, the National Police, I was the head of the National Football Information Point, so to some extent I'm familiar with football as mass event and security, and I think that's the reason why the president of La Liga decided to offer me the opportunity to create the security department and to run this new adventure. Well, after the introduction, let's go with the topic of these minutes. Of course, that the attack in France last months ago has been a turning point in many aspects of managing a football match. But before, I don't know if it works. Okay. I would like to start with a quick reflection about where we are now in safety and security, because when I say we, I mean countries, police, association, authorities, clubs, all, football, the football world, okay? So we started to work in safety and security maybe in the late 70s or during the 80s, because of many incidents you know very well. And the work was mainly focused on violence prevention and anti-hooliganism, as far as I know, because the main problem regarding security and safety in football during the 80s, more or less, it was this kind of images, hooligans inside the stadium and violence inside the stadium. And that means risk of fire, risk of avalanches, risk of many things that had happened in the last years in many countries. Now, after 30, 40 years, football has fantastic stadiums, secure and safe stadiums, and secure and safe events. Thanks to the work of legislators, lawmakers, police forces, authorities, clubs, fans also, because now fans are really engaged in this battle. We have fantastic stadiums. This is a very good example of a modern and fantastic stadium where you can go with your family, enjoy the match, and which is more important, you feel that you are safe and secure here. And you don't pay attention about security because you are only focused on what is happening on the pitch. Well, this is the moment we have now, after 30, 40 years of hard work in many aspects. The main pillars of safety and security, you know much more than I know about this issue, but well, we've been working, football has been working mainly private and public security. We started deploying many officers or many stewards or many security guards in the stadiums. Now the number, I'm sure that is smaller because of what we work. Football works much better safety and security. Protocols and plans after accidents and incidents. Many protocols and plans, many ways of working has been implemented in all the stadiums and clubs. So we have offices and we have the organizational part of their work. We also have security systems in our stadiums. Technology is fantastic, and there's no corner in a stadium where you can do anything in a concealed way. Here, in this point, security systems, I have to say that the Spanish model is, I think, is slightly different from other countries because by law, we have La Liga, as organizer of the competition, has to implement security systems in all the stadiums in the professional competition. I mean, ticketing, access control, CCTV, PA, and some other security systems. So the security standard in all the stadiums is the same in the Spanish competition because it's an obligation for La Liga. So we have now fantastic cameras monitoring and recording what happened in the stadiums. And finally, and last but not least, the architectural design. The stadiums are fantastic. It's very easy to, not very easy, but let me say that it's very easy to evacuate a stadium because we have the officers, we have the protocols, and the design of the stadium gives you the chance to evacuate a stadium in some minutes. We have an experience about that in 2002. There was a call when a match was on the way at Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, and the authorities, the police, after the assessment of the call, and the authority decided to stop the match and to evacuate the stadium. It was done in 6, 7, 8 minutes, approximately, around 80,000 spectators, no problems. The evacuation was very good, but nothing happens, for sure. But the real challenge for me is not the evacuation, is what to do with the people when they are outside the streets. Because if you have a stadium which is in the heart of the city, as Santiago Bernabeu, or even this stadium. There are houses around the stadium. So the real challenge for me is not the evacuation, but well, you can evacuate according to your plan. But the problem is the streets, because you need the streets clear of public for the emergency services. So it's a real challenge. Well, so we have a fantastic system, mainly focused on stop violence and hooliganism. It's been, football works for years so far. No? But we have new challenges, of course. Paris has been a very important moment. If we compare Paris with something that happened also in Madrid in the last years regarding terrorism, because, well, you know the history of Spain with the actions of ETA, the terrorist organizations, for years. We had 2 terrorist actions focused to stadiums and focused on football matches. The first one, I think it was in 1996, and the second one in 2002. Yeah, well, 2 car bombs close to stadiums. So terrorism in the last years, or terrorism, traditional terrorism, has been focused also in football, but not with the idea to provoke a disaster, let's say, because, well, what they wanted was to provoke chaos, to be on the media, and that's why they, in that 2 occasions, they called some journalists to alert about the guards. So the modus operandi was completely different. In Paris, we have had a different modus operandi. The terrorism now is different, and the terrorist doesn't mind to commit suicide. What they want is to kill people, and it doesn't matter if the terrorist died as well. So the main challenges for me are football as a mass event is included in the national anti-terrorist plans. In the case of Spain, we are in level 4 in a system of 5 categories according to our anti-terrorist plan. Level 4 means that any mass event must have some police presence and some police activity, not only focus on crowd management, criminality prevention, and things like that, also focus on terrorism. That's why each match, nowadays in Spain, we have some officers, or the risk assessment is different. It's not only a risk assessment based on violence, it's also a risk assessment based on terrorism or something like that. So that means that many of the preventive actions that we can implement must be approved in advance by the police, because we don't want to make problems or to interfere in the police actions. The second one is need for new security actions as a consequence of a new threat, a new reality. We have to think about something different to do, because the threat is different. After Paris, I remember, it's a personal experience, I remember the day after, immediately I emailed all the security directors of our 42 clubs, alert, because we also had matches that day and days after, of course, in Spain. So keeping in mind our matches, I emailed all of our security directors, and I told them, okay, something has happened in Paris, but let's say, why not, we are in the same situation. So please check the evacuation plans, check immediately all security systems, all the things that you can do. And also pay special attention to the preventive search in the stadiums and seal all the areas after searching. In my mind was the traditional reaction of a police officer thinking about ETA action. Because when ETA was acting in Spain, we always kept in mind the idea of a bomb inside the stadium. But the modus operandi of the Islamic State and this kind of organizations is different. It's very unlikely or less likely that they want to set a bomb inside the stadium. They don't need to do that. So what they want is to do something outside, at the gate or close to the stadium, because what they want is just 100 people together, a crowd of people. So we have to do something. We have to keep on doing what we've been doing for years, of course, but the modus operandi, the reality is different. So we have also to adapt our systems, our preventive systems, to this new reality. This is something important for me. Manage a long-term security scenario. Could we keep our security system working at full speed years in a row? If we want to do that, we have to change things. And again, it's a personal approach. After Paris, 4 or 5 days after, we had in Spain El Clásico, Real Madrid-Barcelona, which is one of the key matches in the season at Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. So the number of private security guards were not double, but almost double, and the number of officers from the police also increased hugely in number. But could we do that in all the stadiums during the whole season? I think it's almost impossible. So we have to do something with the security systems, also with the training of our security people in the stadiums, which is important because it's important to be alert. If you are a steward or a private security guard, you must be alert to any bad behavior of any spectators or any outburst of violence, but also to be alert to any suspicious behavior and to report that to the closer police officer. Okay, so we have to do something because this is impossible. We can send, I don't know the average officers on duty here, for instance, but could you double the number forever? I think honestly, we can do that in a final or in a derby or in very particular matches, but not during the whole season. And the risk is there. Okay. Effective security measures is, again, more or less the same idea. We have to do things that are effective. If we implement body search, we have to do that in an effective way, or if we want to implement new security measures, we have to think about the effectiveness of that measures. Intelligence. This is the fight against terrorism is mainly a police activity. A fight against hooliganism and violence, for me, it was based on prevention, and now fight against terrorism is based in intelligence, and intelligence is out of our hands. It's in the hands of the police and in the Secret Service, for sure. And finally, this is, well, an idea. I've been for many times hearing about the idea of public-private partnership in order to collaborate, to work together. Well, I think that football is it's a fantastic example of how public and private sides of security work together not only during the same day or during the match day, days in advance, organizing and exchanging information. So this is, we must feel proud of this partnership, private and public. And I come from the public side, and now I'm working in the private side. And I feel comfortable in both sides because the approach and the idea is the same. Well, that's all from my side. Thank you very much. It's just an array of ideas, and I'm open to, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So I think we've got time for a question from the floor, so I'd love for someone to ask a question. Does anyone have any questions? Please. You can shout and I'll translate.
I can make my voice heard. That was really very, very interesting and very grateful for you coming all this way to join our conference. I'm Susan Johnson. I'm one of the board members of the Sports Ground Safety Authority. And I'm particularly interested in your note about vigilance and particularly how we engage spectators in being more vigilant. We get constant reminders now on trains and in airports, etc., to look out for the unusual. I don't know whether we do enough of that in sports grounds to engage with fans groups and spectators, to be the eyes and ears of the security forces when they can't be everywhere. So I'm interested in your commentary on that. And secondly, the point around cyber threat, as we get more dependent upon security systems in and around sports stadia, I think that the next phase of cyber threat will be how the terrorists take out those systems and then take away the ears and eyes, if you like, in the sky across sports facilities. And I don't know the extent to which sports grounds themselves and organisations that are represented in this room work together to deal with that cyber threat along with the security forces, and wondering if you had any experience from your own organisation about how that's being addressed.
Okay. So the first is funds engagement in violence prevention. Let's see. Well, we work, well, in Spain there are a big organization of funds, and we work with them because it's easy if you have a face or an organization to speak with, because funds are everywhere, but what we need is to have somebody to speak with and to work with. With this organization, we have some activities together during the season. We organize 2 meetings with them per season. This is important because we organize meetings with the match commanders, the security directors, so public and private sides of security, fans, representatives of each club, and La Liga. And we meet twice per season for 2 days, and we speak about the common issues that we have. Because security is important, of course, but for us it's also very important fans' expectations. Because we may do many things, but maybe it's not what fans are expecting or are demanding, no? So we work in that way. And with the Fans Association, we have elaborated a kind of handbook for fans, and we delivered the handbook at the beginning of the season. This year, we have printed 400,000 handbooks. So during two weekends, at the entrance of all the stadiums, each spectator had a handbook in their hands. So, and during the season, we also have some campaigns in social networks and things like that. But the first and most important part is to have an organization, I think, to speak with, because otherwise it's impossible to go to each club and to speak with 42 people or to repeat 42 times the same thing. No? And They are organized, and we speak with the organizers. And regarding the second question, cybercrime, well, for La Liga it's a real concern. Why? Because we have some responsibilities with our clubs. We have to provide to our clubs some systems, security systems. One of the systems is ticketing. So we have a platform where all the clubs are in that platform, and we share many information with them. So from time to time we receive attacks to that platform. So far the security systems have been able to detect that attacks, but you can imagine the information that is in that platform is the same in a company, or it's the same in a ministry or wherever. So we are also investing a lot of money in that kind of firewalls or cyber systems, because I'm not an expert on that side. But it's again a window that we have open, or we are trying to close that window, and well, but it's a concern. It's a real concern, because well, you know, many attacks in banks, for instance, in order to catch data of their clients. So could be the same with the systems of La Liga or a system. But well, as far as I know, we've been safe so far, but we are working, of course, on a daily basis in that field.
Thank you, thank you for the question. I'm sad to say that's also the end of that session today, but certainly I heard quite a lot about a new threat requiring a new response, whether that threat is suicide or cyber, and a new type and volume of security, and therefore the protocols that support that, and the training to allow the people, the stewards, your teams out there every day to feel safe with these new protocols that meet these new threats. There's really fascinating pieces in there about the interrelation between public and private security, and the bringing together of safety and security as a whole to make a seamless, safe experience for our spectators on a daily basis. I'm really grateful for Alfredo for coming all the way from Spain this morning to join us. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll join me in sharing in that appreciation.